there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got some fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we're going to be working on some farmhouse rustic spring crafts. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, we're going to do a little country kind of craft here with some different fabrics, okay? I have a pattern for you. Link to my blog in the description box. This is the egg. It also comes with a little bit more we'll do in a minute. I'm going to use a back piece for the egg is one whole piece. I've got that already cut. And then on this other one, I wanted to show you, this is a pillow sham. So, if you see these in thrift stores, I've, talked about this before, pick them up. You don't get a lot of fabric, but it'll do. So I've got that egg already cut out as well. And then for the front, I'm going to do 2 pieces of fabric for each egg. Now, if you're a gluer, you're going to put pretty sides together and then glue along one edge. Okay, pretty sides together and glue along one edge to make it, 2 pieces and be pretty. Or if you just want to do like 1 piece of fabric for the front and then you've got 1 piece of fabric for the back, that's perfectly wonderful too. All right, as a sewer, I'm going to put 2 pieces together and sew along that seam on the back side, and both of these are done. I did that off camera, and then I've got my 2 pieces. And then I'm going to take my egg and figure out where I want it on my fabric, okay, where I want my seam to end up on the egg, and get those cut out. Because sometimes I only want a little bit, like that's kind of half and half. And then this one is actually going to be, the pattern's only probably be about 1/4 of the egg. And then the little corduroy fabric down below is going to be like 3/4 of the egg. So you can just kind of place it where you want it. Okay, just like this, right? And then of course your back pieces are going to go on. Making sure I've got that right side out. And then if you're a gluer, you're going to 2 or 3 fingers maybe, you're going to leave open for your width and glue all the way around the edge between the 2 fabrics and put them together. All right, just like that. Both eggs. And then if you're a sewer, again, 2 or 3 finger openings, sew around the edge. I'm leaving my outside edges out, okay? That way it gives us that kind of country look. I'm leaving my seams out, all right? And then I'm sewing all the way around, leaving, a little bit of an opening there, of course. There we go. Coming in with the other one. I like how these turned out. They're cute. I had to do this project twice with the eggs because the eggs turned out too small and the basket was way too hard to do. So I completely changed it up. And so now here we are on the new pattern that I think is easier for you. All right, once you're done, this one I didn't quite leave enough room when I'm stuffing it, and then one of the seams was open, so I had to go back and re-sew it if you saw that little hole on the side, but no worries, I fixed it. Here it is fixed. Once you stuff both of your eggs, all right, then you're going to glue or sew it closed depending on what you do. All right, so here's the rest of the pattern. So the top, you've got the egg, and the other side is a basket bottom, okay? You're going to cut 1 piece of that, and then your basket sides. What you're going to do is cut these out, and then at the dash lines, you're going to put them together. I cut crooked there. And then tape it together to make 1 pattern, all right? So you've got 2 pattern pieces for your little basket. I've already cut the bottom out. It's just an oval. Here's my top cut out. Now what we're looking at is the U shape, all right? The U shape is going to go toward the basket on the bottom, and you're going to put your 2 pieces together just like this, about 3/4 of an inch, right? If you're a gluer, you're going to glue it closed. If you're a sewer, you're going to sew it closed. So here mine is sewn and ready to go, and we're going to attach our basket like we did the eggs, okay? Again, the U shape is toward the bottom of the basket or it's not going to fit right. You can kind of see how it's more narrow inside, and then the outside, the top splays out. And what I'm doing here is I'm just folding my egg in half so that I can kind of find my center, and that's where I'm going to put my seam. And then what you're going to do is just put your edges together, the edge of your oval to that U-shaped edge of your basket, whether you're a gluer or a sewer. Gluers, you can kind of do it how you like, but might I recommend that you pin it together like this all the way around first. And once it's done, it's going to look like this, a little bit funny. But gluers, here's my suggestion, is like once it's pinned, take a pin out so you keep your edges level, and then glue that spot, and then take your next pin out and glue that spot all the way around so that everything stays edge to edge. Is that understandable? And if you're a sewer, you're going to sew around the edge. You can sew around the outer edge or the inside edge, which is more comfortable to you. I like to sew the outside edge because then I can move my fabrics. As you see here, I kind of move them out of the way a little bit so nothing gets wrinkled in, or, you know, no pleats or anything like that. Pull the pins out if you need to, and then just kind of make sure that fabric is straight all around that oval piece. Okay? And once this is done, this is what it looks like. Nice, easy basket. I want to put a little stability in the bottom. So I'm taking that same oval piece pattern and I'm just tracing it onto some cardboard. But it's going to be too big because remember we sewed in or glued around those edges. So I'm coming in about 1/4 of an inch and redrawing that perimeter. And then that's the part I'm going to cut out. And then that should fit our basket because that little bit of edge, bringing that in, should compensate for, you know, how far in we glued or sewed, right? And you can put it in just like this, but you know, I'm going to cover it, right? So then I'm going to go ahead and use that same cardboard piece I just cut out to cut out another piece of my fabric here. All right, that way we cover that ugly cardboard right up. Although we'll cover it up anyway because we end up putting moss in there. But you know, you do you. You can glue it down or sew around it like I'm going to do, and then I will glue it onto the cardboard piece. Okay? And here's what my sewing looks like here. Nothing fancy to look at, but there you go. And then I'll glue this down. Perfect. And then we'll get it into the bottom of our basket in a minute. First, I'm going to take some of this crochet ribbon here from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to go around the very top edge. And if you're a gluer, you can glue it on. I'm going to go ahead and sew it on. I'll do it off camera, so I'm going to cut off just as much as I need and then sew that around the edging there. And here's what that looks like. See, just nice and easy, but I thought it'd just give a little something on the outside of the basket, although we'll do something more. And now we'll put our bottom in. This was a much easier basket to do, I promise you. Now what I'm doing is just adding a tiny bit of decor to the eggs. I'm just taking some more crochet trim from Dollar Tree. I'm wrapping it around right at the seams on both eggs. And then I'm just adding a little bow here. Tied a bow out of that same crochet, gluing that on. And then I've got a little button with some twine. I put some twine in the center of the buttons, and then I'm going to glue those on in the center of the bows. That's it for the egg. Okay, for, you know, like stuff on top of it. Okay, just like that. Now, this is a free printable I'm going to have for you. These are little spring flash cards. I wanted to use the one at the top that said Egg Hunt, but my printer grabbed it weird and so it didn't print out. So I'm going to use the springtime one. And I printed this onto fabric. It's really easy to do. In my blog link, there will be a video there. If you've not done this before, it shows you how you can print onto fabric using your inkjet or laser printer. Right? And then once I cut this to the size I needed, I'm just pulling on the strings around the fabric to kind of distress those a little bit. All right? And then I'm using some of this placemat. You all have seen me pull out these placemats before. I get these at a thrift store. They're usually like 50 cents a placemat. I like to use these because I like to cut them up for texture behind, you know, when I want to add a little secondary fabric behind the tag. So I'm just kind of fitting this how I, you know, need to, and I cut that out. Then I'm going to use a little bit of batting here for some fluff behind it. And if you're a gluer and you want to add extra fabrics and things, you can go ahead and glue that together, but I'm going to sew around it. All right, here's what that looks like. And now I'm just taking some Distress Oxide ink and Vintage Photo, my little finger dauber, and I'm just going to kind of ink around the edges of our little spring flash card, just so that the springtime word now will have a silhouette around it, and it will help kind of that word to pop up. Okay, and then since I already have the ink out, I'll go ahead and just add a little bit to the egg. You don't even really notice it a lot, but at least I know I did it, right? You notice it more on the plain fabrics like this one, but just to kind of distress it up a little bit. And I think I do it on the basket just a little bit too. Now what I'm doing is just glue my tag, my little springtime tag, kind of a diagonal onto my little spring basket. And then I made a little bow out of some twine. I'm going to glue that on. And then I'm going to kind of glue the tails into place, because they're already kind of squiggly looking and I liked that look, so I'm going to glue them in that squiggle position. Once that's done, I've got a button here. I put some twine in. I'm going to glue it on. Now, this button is from my scrapbook days, and it actually says hello on it. So I thought that was perfect. Hello, springtime. Couldn't have been any better. And then, of course, I've got the eggs in the basket. I'm adding a little bit of moss. I decided later the moss was almost dark looking, so I went and got some of that Excelsior stuff, the white looking moss stuff, and I put that in there too. So at the end of the video, you'll see kind of the combination of regular moss and Excelsior. But once I get this stuff in there, it helps hold our eggs up. That makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move right on into project number 2A. 2 projects in 1. For this project, I'm going to be using this towel I got at Dollar Tree, and I'm bringing in this fabric also from Dollar Tree, some batting, which is optional. And then I've got a free pattern for you, linked to my blog in the description box, of course, as I already said on our first project. This one is the bunny and the heart, and then the project 2B is the carrot and the top. And so I thought you could either make them both together or whichever design you like best. So I'm just folding my towel in half. I've got things kind of cut already. So this is just some like duck cloth, 100% cotton material, Waverly brand at Walmart, and I got some batting underneath it. Now, when I cut this, I wasn't sure if I wanted this on there. I thought it would help the bunnies pop up more. In the end, I think I like it more on the towel directly, like with the next one, but you know, it's done, it's there. So I've got that laid in position. I, made sure it was centered, and now I'm pinning the bunny pattern onto this fabric. Don't worry, Boston's tail is way over here. I can see the lump, so I'm not going to pin her tail to the fabric. And then I'm going to cut it out. I know she always comes in and we just see her little bum. That's it. That's when he made me laugh last week with that comment. I'm not going to give you away, but that cracked me up. All right, so I've got 3 bunnies and some batting we're going to put behind it. Now, the 2 bunnies on the outer edge, it's going to be 1 piece of batting with the bunny. Again, as I always say, the batting is optional. We're going to just do like this cute little trio of bunnies. All right. But the middle one's going to have like 3 pieces of batting because we have to raise that middle one up so it sits level across the other 2. Right? If you're using just regular fabric, you're really not going to see that difference in layering them as when you're using batting, because it just lifts it up that much more, okay? So when I place this bunny on, the middle kind of sinks down. So I'm going to take 1 piece of this batting here, and I'm just going to kind of cut around so it doesn't really touch the body. And then I have to do the same thing on the face a little bit, just kind of cut that down a little bit. And then that's going to be my first piece laying in between the 2 bunnies. And then I'll place the other full bunny batting pieces right on top, and then the fabric, and now it's more level. If you're just doing fabric and no batting pieces, you really don't need to worry about that, because you're not going to get as lumpy bumpy as what my batting is making me have. Now, if you're a gluer and you use a backing piece, batting, whatever, you can get all that glued on. Then you can start gluing your batting and outer bunnies down. The middle bunny, you can go ahead and kind of start getting that glued down as well. I may not put the middle bunny on just yet, because now we're going to use the heart from the pattern. It's the tail. I've cut out 3 pieces already. I'm just saying wait to glue that middle bunny on until you get your tails in the position you want on those outer bunnies. Okay, because if yours are a little closer together, you may end up covering the tails, that kind of thing. And so if you're a gluer, you got everything all glued into place. Now, me being a sewer, I'm just kind of spot gluing everything down, getting it into position. The outer bunnies are ready to go, so I can start sewing those. And then I'll just glue down the first batting piece and get that going. All right. I'm going to go ahead and glue the batting to the backing of the fabric only. I'm not going to glue it onto the towel or anything yet. What I'm trying to do here also with this back piece is I didn't want to see all the sewing on the other side of the towel, because I thought it would look tacky. But really, when you go into our second project of this project, it actually looks really nice. So you could definitely eliminate this backing if you wanted to. Okay, so of course what I'm doing here first is just sewing my hearts on to the bunnies, just like I said, and then I'll sew around the bunnies, and then we'll go back in and do that middle bunny. Okay, now once this one is done, then we're going to go in and I'm going to start spot gluing down my batting to get this piece of the bunny on, and then of course I will sew that on off camera. All right, everything's sewn. Now I'm going to start gluing this piece down to the towel. Again, yeah, let me know your comments. I just don't know if I like this piece, but whatever. It might be cuter once I've got it glued down and I sew around the edges as you see here. And I went around it twice to make it all look nice and intentional and that kind of thing. But there you go. All right, let's, we're just not going to say anything else about that. Let's go ahead, and I've got a couple of different pieces here. I'm doing bows, so I'm doing kind of this rope looking braided stuff I got at Joann's for the two outer bunnies, and then the inner bunny I'm doing just regular twine to kind of make him stand out a little bit more. And then that makes this towel complete after I kind of trim the tails on the bows a little bit. All right, let's go into project 2B. Same similar thing. I've got everything cut out. I'm using a towel here that I got on clearance from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to fold it in half. All right. Like I said, everything's cut out. You already know that. We're going to use the 2 carrot pieces for this one. 3 carrots, the same kind of process, just like the bunnies. I only did a little different on this one. The middle carrot has 3 pieces of batting. Our bunny had 2, and the outer carrots have 2 pieces of batting. Our bunny had 1. And you can see the tops of one of the batting cut off. I'll show you why in a minute. And then, of course, I've got the greenery, and each of the greenery has 2 pieces of batting. And you don't have to have batting. So this is why I cut the bottom batting so that the carrot can fit right in underneath that and fit nice and flush. Give us room to put our greenery in there. That's it. That's why I did that. Okay, so your bottom piece of batting, just cut that off. Now it's the same as with the bunny. The bottom piece of batting for the center carrot is too wide. So I'm going to cut that down so it fits just in between the 2 on either side. Okay, and I actually end up doing that twice. And then I lay the 3rd piece on top. All right, and the process is going to be the same. If you're a gluer, you can get your 2 outer carrots and greenery, everything glued right onto the towel. Okay, and then you can assemble and do your middle carrot. All right, if it doesn't overlap, like I have mine overlap, that's why, and that's same on the bunnies. That's why I'm saying doing the outer first and then the middle. But if you're not overlapping any of them, you're just kind of laying them side by side, it doesn't matter which way or which position and who or what you glue first or second. Okay, I'm going to take mine to the sewing machine after I kind of spot glue everything down. You can see I've got my batting kind of spot glued, and I'm going to glue the carrot tops first, or sew the carrot tops first. You can see there, sewn off camera. See, it really does not look bad at all. Maybe it's because of the stuff on the back side, you know, the texture. It looks fine. All right, so once I've got the greenery on, I'm going to sew the outer carrots and then sew the inner greenery on. I'm doing it in stages because, remember, I've got mine overlapped. But yeah, so it looks fine if you just want to sew it on too. I have said this like 10 times. I think that first towel, that backing really bugs me. I don't know how I'm going to live with myself. Okay, enough of that. Enough of my woes. Let's move on. So, of course, here I am sewing the outer carrots. We'll just show a little bit, and then I'll move on to sewing the greenery for that middle carrot since it overlaps the other 2 on the outer, and then we'll move into putting the center carrot on. And I'll do that off camera. I'll just sew that right on. Okay, it makes everything complete. Here it is all sewn ready to go. I think I show you the back side here. It actually looks really nice. See? Looks fine. Okay, we know the story. All right, let's finish it up. I'm again using some of that braided rope, and I'm just doing 1 bow for the center, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down the tails on this one because I want them to kind of curve a little bit. And then I will just take a button, nice big button. I've put twine through the center here. Just a minute, I'll pop that up. We're going to glue it into the center of that bow. Here it is. And that makes these 2 towels complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, I'm taking this old cutting board I had. I think I found at a thrift store. I'm going to just do a little painting to the front of it. We're going to add a little bit of decoration. I know it's a cutting board, but this is decoration, so we're not going to make it usable. I'm going to bring back my favorite, you know, textured placemat here and some fabric and stuff, of course. So I've got my piece already cut. I love the kind of the edging on that placemat. And then this is from Etsy. It's a printable. I will have a link down below. I don't remember how many you got, like 16 images for a couple dollars. So I printed it onto some fabric. I'll have a link in my description box to my blog for all these things. And on my blog as well, if you don't know how to print onto fabric using your inkjet or laser printer, there'll be a short little 4-minute video there for you. So I've got it cut down to size. I'm also going to put some batting right behind it. You all know I like to use my batting to kind of make things a little puffy and country and cute. So everything's cut. This is how I'm going to place it. Perfect. And then I'm going to bring in our little flashcards again. I'm going to use the little bunny hop part, so I'm cutting that down to size. And I'll cut some batting for it as well behind it. I'm going to cut like 3 pieces of batting. I'm distressing around the edges. I've pulled it off the paper. I did the same thing on the bunny, and I pull on the little strings of the fabric, so it kind of gives it little frayed edging. And then here is my batting. Now, one piece is going to be the size I need, and then the other 2 pieces will be cut down. So that's what you're seeing here. And then you'll see how I did it, because I'm going to place it right at the bottom here where that batting is. So, and I'm placing the full one over the top, so the bottom 2 are still a little bit long. All right, and now I can lay those 2 shorter pieces down, the full piece over the top, so it makes it level to place my little tag. Understandable? All right, so I'm going to bring in some Distress Oxide ink and Gathered Twigs. I've been doing this whenever I'm using these images, and my script stamp I love. This is, I think, like old, I think I got it at Michael's at Joann's, so I don't think you can find it anymore. And I'm just inking just little corners of the stamp and impressing it down onto the fabric. It just gives a little bit more of a vintage look to it. All right, and then I'm taking some Distress ink in Vintage Photo. You all know I like to use that with my little finger dauber, and I'm just coming around the image over the stamping, leaving the silhouette around the bunny so that the bunny has a little bit lighter edge there and it pops it out a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on the tag as far as the inking goes around the edges. I'm not going to stamp on it, just going to ink around it so the word bunny hop pops up a little bit more. And then I'm just going to spot glue my batting onto the back of my pieces. And in this trio all together, spot gluing it. If you're a gluer, you can just glue them all down together. All right, but don't put them on your board yet if you want to use a board, if you want to use a cutting board. I'm going to get them spot glued and then sew around the edges of both of these pieces. Okay, I'll do that off camera. All right, and now also I found this little butterfly. It was part of a garland I got at like Michael's like 5 years ago or so. I had a little snippet of this. And so I took it off and I thought, well, it matches the exact fabric I'm using. So I'm going to stamp on it a little bit first. You could use just a butterfly already made. I just had this and thought it would look neat with it. So I'm stamping around the edges on it first. Now, if you use like Dollar Tree has those little white butterflies would be cute. Those are made of paper. You could stamp on the edges. All right, and then I'm inking around the edges just so it matches like when I inked around the cute little flash card and around the bunny image. And then I'm going to sew around it, and I'm going to sew down the center as well, okay? Just because I like to do that. But you don't have to. And then I'm going to place it probably right in this corner here. I'll do that all off camera. I'll sew around it. All right, so now I'm going to take Dixie Belle paint in the color drop cloth, and I accidentally grabbed the one that's mostly dried, and I didn't feel like adding water in it and sit and mixing it for an hour, so I just painted on what I could, and then I'm using my spray bottle of water to spray it and make it wet to paint it a little bit better. Just the center of it, and then I'm coming in and just distressing it with 120 grit sandpaper. Not really a lot through the center, mostly through the outer edges because the image and all that's going to cover that up. So you can see here that. And then I brought in some of that Excelsior. Remember I talked about that with our little eggs in a basket. That's what I put in the basket. So, and I have it just where I want it on the image because I was checking to see if I would like it or not. So it's still stuck to the back of the fabric, which shows me where I kind of need to glue it onto the board, and then I can glue my fabric right on top of that. All right, I'm laying my bunny thing down there just so I know where to lay my image so that everything is centered. There we go. Can still move it up and stuff. And then I'll glue right on top to hold that Excelsior in nice and well. And then I'm going to glue down my little tag down here. And so when this is all done, it's going to kind of look like a country shabby type project. Okay, brought in a little bit of my shabby chic energy to it. It looks so cute. And now what I'm doing, I'm just cutting out some paper towel and I'm going to lay it over the bunny image. Perfect. Want to cover that up because I'm taking some black paint mixed with water and my fan brush. And I'm going to make some splatters on everything. And I didn't want splatters on the bunny. You can already see the splatters going on the paper towel. That would have went all over my bunny. So I just cut it out that shape so that my bunny stays nice and clean. And it'll also help pop it out a little bit more. Here's what my butterfly looks like. I sewed about 5 times down the center and then of course around the outer edges. Really pretty. You could do that with just regular fabric if you want to just cut out your own bunny, like print like a free template online, you know, shrink it down the size you want, cut your own fabric butterfly out, sew around it. Totally perfect. And now I'm just taking some of this rope I picked up at Joann's on clearance because, you know, their doors are closed now, I think. Tied one single knot and then I'm just kind of, you know, cut my tails down a little bit and I'm just smooshing the edges here. Make it look nice and cute. This one's too long. I'm going to trim it up just a little bit more. I wanted to use a lighter color rope to go in with the light color of the image. And now I'm gluing just a little bit more of the Excelsior right here in the corner. And I'm going to glue my butterfly right on top. So it looks like an extension of that whole Excelsior in that corner. Now don't think I'm weird. This is like a crocheted tablecloth I picked up at a garage sale probably 7-8 years ago. And over the years, I like to just rip it up like this because it rips easy. And it kind of gives these little pieces and it gives a little bit of a shabby chic look to it. So I just glue these little pieces like I'm lifting up my fabric here and I'm kind of gluing it right next to that Excelsior. It gives it a little more texture. It brings in that shabby chic and it's just fun to do. Just a thought for you if you want to try it. If you don't like it, forget about it. I'm going to do that in like 3 places because everything looks good in 3s and kind of in a triangular vision. So this piece here, the piece up to the right corner, and this piece in this corner. If you were to draw lines from each piece, you'd have that triangular line of vision, and that's supposed to be aesthetically pleasing. Sometimes I'm smart about things. I learned it in a book, people. Once that's done, this project is complete. So I hope you liked all of these projects today, maybe excluding the one towel, but that's it. I mean, this is the final time I'm going to talk about it. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project you would love to make or which one is your favorite that you're going to add to a list because you just don't have time to make it right now. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please share this video. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. Also, this is the last of my spring videos, although I may bring out a bunny or 2 later, but the last of the official spring. I'm now going to go into just a couple of Easter videos. And then we'll see where things take me and what we're going to do next. Just a little tidbit of info for you. With that said, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. 2.4 billion followers of Jesus. Jesus, love combined through hearts he created, living in hope with faith through his grace. With that said, it means you are not alone and never will be alone. You are accepted. You are loved. Jesus loves his relationship with you. He called you by name. Open your ears and hear his voice saying how much he loves you. There are so many ways that God demonstrates his love for you. And one of the ways he brings you the assurance of his love is through his word of life, the Holy Bible. Allow your heart through faith to hear all that he has for you whenever you read his word. It will comfort you, give you joy, give you peace. It will be your guide to running the race set before you. And as you travel on your path of life, do not think that you run any roads alone. God demonstrates his love by constantly staying beside you, and if you get tired and stumble at any time, he will steady you quickly and uphold you with his right hand. Don't ever be shaken, and always allow his strength to be your refuge. Another way God will show his love for you is by wanting you to know that he understands and knows everything that you face in life. Know that he always hears you and he cares for you. He's never too busy for you. Sometimes when you feel his quietness during a trial, it doesn't mean that he isn't listening or he doesn't care. It can be hard to cultivate the silence of him sometimes, but it's worth saying again. He will never leave you alone. His word promises that. He's simply maybe working a few things out on your behalf, and that can take time. Just don't stop trusting in him. Don't walk away from him, and never give up hope. Remember, you are part of an amazing family, a family God himself created. He deposited his love into you when he formed you, so he indeed will always be a part of you, and that can never be taken away. He sent his son to die for you so that you could have everlasting life with him, and truly, if you think about it, that's the biggest demonstration of his love for you to remember. Lastly, think about this. One day, you will get to demonstrate the love Jesus shares with you by sharing him to someone else, and they will ask to be part of this big family with you. And you will be delighted as Jesus opens the door for them, because somewhere in your past, someone did the same for you. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.